I'll step back now and open this to some questions. When we focus on the behaviors that we don't like, that focus comes out as contraction and pushing away. When we look into the one with behaviors we don't like and find that which is lovely within that being, and focus on that which is lovely, gradually the unpleasant behaviors fall away, and that which is beautiful emerges. Not necessarily this week or month or decade or century, but eventually. So in what ways have all of you been focusing negativity at the COVID-19 virus? Instead of finding something, I don't know whether to use the term beautiful, but something that could be good about the virus. I think if I went around this room and asked each person, amidst all the challenges of this year, can you find one thing that was powerful and good for you, wholesome? And in some ways caused by the limits set by the virus. I think all of you could find something. Then you can thank the virus. Let me say this carefully, giving as example, Barbara has said this week that they moved to bring her husband home from the nursing home in March, as just after he was locked in there, literally to save his life. They had hoped that he would come home someday in a year or 2 or 3. But they had never thought they could do it now. It has been a real challenge for her, emotionally, financially, physically, to take care of him at home, and yet it has been the greatest gift that she or he could have received. And so she says to the virus, I know you did not intend, you did not do this consciously, but still I can thank you for the influence you gave that led me and how to take these steps. Thank you. In that sincere thank you, instead of a negative, contracted energy against the virus, there's a softening. Now, this is interesting. This virus cannot dwell in a high vibration. As soon as she is able to soften and say thank you in that way, the virus cannot take hold on her. Or if it did, it cannot take a strong hold. If millions of you around the world can speak to the virus from a place of high vibration and love, saying a clear no, you may not destroy. No, you may not do that, but I do not heed you because this is simply what you are shaped to do. You are not consciously trying to kill. You are simply being what you are. I do not hate you for it. Even you contain light. If this as truth could spread through the whole world, so that everywhere in the world the virus was met with this kind of energy, the virus would fade away. Better than any immunization, but probably more difficult than the immunization. It's easy to get an injection. It's harder to open the heart with love. I think it would be possible. Thank you, Joseph, for the question. I think it would be possible to keep it simple and go around and ask each person right now, this year or even this week or day, what brings you the most joy? Can you share it? After each has had a chance to share, simply to point out how much joy it is to hear these stories of joy and of light, to feel the energy in the room be higher vibration of love. You don't have to get specific about it. There's no belief required. It's something that each human is capable of experiencing. The difference between when you feel threatened, angry, pained, and attacked, or when you feel embraced and loved. If it is within your family tradition, simply to take hands and spend a minute or two silent, each giving thanks for whatever each is most thankful for. And then to point out at the end of that few minutes, can people feel the lighter energy around? Just to that much. My friend, there will always be beings who live in fear. True power comes from service to others, kindness and generosity. But those who don't understand those experiences in themselves seek a different power based on contraction, on force. The only way I know to speak to that kind of negativity is with love. In his book of Christmas stories, I don't know if you've read Aaron's Christmas stories. They're tales that he tells when he was Nathaniel and lived with me in the earth in those days. Was my friend. One story comes to mind. Many stories come to mind, but one right here. A gang of brigands accosted us as we walked down the path, going from one village to another. They not only took our robes and our food, but they literally stripped us naked down to our underwear, seeking to humiliate us. Their power, what they could experience as their power, came from humiliation. It made them feel big because they felt so small. They took our shoes, sandals as they were. They took our food. Since we did not fight back, a few hits, but they did not deeply harm us physically. They just took everything and went off, taking things that they could have no possible use for. The people that were with me were angry. I could understand their anger. They felt humiliated and they were cold and hungry. What are we going to do, Yeshua? You say that the love is the answer. But we stood here, at least not hitting them. And they still hurt us. I suggested we build a fire to warm us. We sat by the fire. One of our group was an avid fisher. There was a stream nearby, so we went out and caught many fish. Several others, barefoot and naked, went out and collected nuts and berries. In an hour, we came back to sit by the fire with an abundance of food. We were sitting there, warmed by the fire, fed but unclothed, when several men with leaden burrows came by and saw us. "What's this? Where are your robes?" Brigands stole them. "Oh, I have extra here." And he pulled clothing out of his. He had 3 or 4 burrows, each deeply laden with material that he was going to take to the market, robes and other clothing. He had sandals. He clothed us. We said, "We have nothing with which to pay you." He said, "No need." He sat by our fire and enjoyed a meal with us, slept by the fire with us. The next day we walked on. About an hour down the trail, we came to a very painful sight. This group of brigands, they had been walking down the road, unaware that a tree was very weak, ready to fall. They had paused under this large tree and it fell over on them. None were killed, but they did not have the strength to lift the tree off themselves. A deep sadness for them touched us. All were injured. All but a few were injured, and those few could not lift the tree. But there was an axe, and we were able to cut aside the tree, roll it off, help wash and bandage wounds, even set a few broken limbs. And they looked at us saying, "Why are you doing this? You are the men from whom we stole." I said to them, "Your fear led you to steal. But I see in you that you are so much more than fear. Now can your light lead you to give love, to support love in the world?" Many of them were in tears at this. A few of them just walked off, still angry. They were not ready to make the shift. But most of them asked, "Can we walk with you? I want to learn about this thing you call love. I want to learn how to do this." They began to understand the non-duality of light and darkness and how to kindle the light within themselves, how to bring it forth. And I would say that, yes, they're stopping us, robbing us. The whole scene played itself out perfectly. It gave an opportunity for these men who did not know how to learn about love to begin to learn this. Throughout the world, there are those who will abuse and hurt you with fists, with words, with weapons. Find that which you can offer them without humiliating them, without negating them in any way. Find the way that your light can truly touch them to whatever degree they are capable of receiving that light, never forcing it upon them, but always offering. I hope that answers your question. Let me add to that. Can you see the myriad ways that you're offered the opportunity in this present world to do just what I have just described? What if you lived in a world that was so filled with light that you really had to look to find darkness? How could the light that you are then serve to transform the darkness? Many of you are dancing with me here. I'm enjoying your energy. Thank you. No, not really that simple, David, because you have eons of as yet unresolved karma. But the wonderful thing about karma is you do not have to go into 10,000 different situations where you addressed harm with more harm. One moment of opening your heart in a situation where you could be harmed, where you're assaulted with a negativity, one moment of opening your hearts and holding space for that negativity while seeing it as non-dual with the light and finding the light therein. Not getting rid of the negativity, just finding and resting in the light therein and addressing the light, inviting the light. That resolves eons of ancient karma. You still have to balance that karma. Many of you here have moved past experiencing yourselves primarily as a negatively polarized beings. You know yourselves as the light, but in modeling that behavior as a light, in forgiving, in cherishing, you balance the old karma. So I think it's less just the awareness, which many of you already have, than the free will intention. I am a being of light. I consecrate this mind, body, and spirit to the light. I resolve to move in ways that support this consecration of what I am. And then simply remembering that. And of course, you're not always going to be able to do it. Then forgiving yourself when you fall short and addressing the whole thing again. Ah, I blew it to the dot. Oh, well, I am human and I'm just going to try again. I consecrate this mind, body, and spirit to the light. I ask support of the brothers and sisters of light that surround me. I ask support of my own higher self. Help me to manifest this intention, to live as the light. When something comes at you and you begin to tense up, you remember, no, I'm not going to respond this way. I am the light. But to be the light doesn't mean you let people destroy you. No, you may not harm me. It takes much more courage to stand up and say, no, you may not destroy me, us, our world, than it takes to take swords and knives and fight. This, my friends, is what I came to teach. Remember that I was in a human body, and it was hard work to be in a human body. I was not used to the heavy and sometimes very painful physical sensations. I was not accustomed to the strong emotions. I had a strong benefit that many of you do not have, which is that I remembered who I am. I remembered that I was the light. You are all in process, many of you, through a very dedicated meditation and prayer practices of coming to remember you are the light. You are the light of the world. You. And we will be that light together. I always am here with you. Having taken that incarnation on earth 2,000 years ago, the essence of what I am, and made the commitment to see this through. I walk this path with you. Together we are strong in our ability to love. We need to be careful. Thank you for your question, Corey. We need to be careful with the English word repentance, which often equates with shame. And this is not what was being advised. I would rather the word used be regret. See that you had choices and that the fear part of you made a choice that did harm. And instead of feeling shame, allow the recognition of that harm to lead you into a firmer conviction the next time something like this happens. I choose to stay present with the fear so that the fear does not rule me and lead me into negativity. This opening your heart to yourself is what shifts the karma. Forgiveness changes karma. That includes self-forgiveness. How can you end negative karma when you hold shame and anger at yourself in your heart? So let's drop the word repentance. Remember, the Bible is not my words as Yeshua. It is what people dreamed up afterward. Many of them trying to put words together to shape how they experienced what, not even what I taught, how they experienced what somebody told them that I taught. Did they get it right? Sometimes. I would dispense with most of it and boil it down to love one another. Forgive. Hold yourselves and each other in your hearts. Find the humility, genuine humility, that knows everything is part of each other. That your strength comes from the strength of everything around you. And that strength is grounded in love. The rest is just words. Some beautiful words, yes, but most of it not essential. So let's go back to the words for which we're gathered here today. That Mary and Joseph Mary, heavy with child, traveled through the countryside. She was at the time of giving birth to the child. They found shelter, simple shelter. And many beings experiencing the light has been born. The light is back. It wasn't me. It was more that I opened. My birth opened the doorway so that the heavenly light, the love, the remembrance of love could pour through. What was that star? Let us metaphorically call it an opening in the dark heavens where the remembrance of light and love could pour through, pouring through to where I lay as an infant. Not to highlight me, but to remind humans nothing is hopeless. Light is, love is. And it is right here. It was pointing at me, but it could be pointing at any of you. Here is the ground of love and of light. And you're saying, hallelujah. Not for my birth, but for the remembrance. Light is, love is. I thank you. Light and love, I think they're interchangeable, but not exactly the same. Where there is a love, there will always be light. Where there is light, there will always be love. But they are two different fabrics, two different textures that are both expressions of the divine itself. The divine is a light. The divine is a love. The divine cannot be defined by any one word. But the two most complete expressions are light and love. When you know love, you're experiencing light. When you know light, you're experiencing love, but not always in equal parts. I think undo is a useful translation for forgive, although it's not the whole of forgive. Forgive includes give, to give of one's heart to another, to give the other the benefit of the doubt, to recognize that the other has acted out of its own fears and distortions, and to give it space and understanding that because of its humanness, these will be there, that it may act from a place of distortion. I give you that. In giving in that way, rather than blaming you for it, I still hold you responsible for it. That's part of your karma. Whatever you have done, you are responsible for it. But in giving you my love and my experience of just embracing you in light and seeing your pain from the ways you have acted or where it will bring you, I undo any harm that has come from this mutual exchange. I cannot undo it fully on your side. I open the doorway for you to undo it. So in forgiveness comes the giving, the holding space, the seeing the possible complete resolution and release of any karma. Undoing the karma. And holding the space for you also to undo the karma from your end. How to undo the karma? Love. undo the karma. On the ultimate level, there is no karma and has never been karma. We could spend a whole semester of classes on this. In fact, Aaron has done so. Karma is only on the mundane plane, and yet as long as you live here with a mundane body and intellect, you are caught up in that karma. Moving to the place of the supramundane where the karma is resolved. This is not a teaching for anyone who has not come to an ethical place of deepest commitment to non-harm. Because if those who were still very much in self-centeredness understood how to transcend karma in this way, they would find therein abilities to do much destruction before it finally caught up with them, if I could put it in that way. They would set very negative rules, as, for example, someone like Hitler did. Thus, this deep, direct experiential insight into the dissolution, into that which transcends karma, usually is reserved for those who have reached the ability, we come around to that, to forgive, not to dwell in the separate self. Forgiveness also means there is no self and other. If somebody does things that are destructive, that hurts you, if you see yourself in that person's situation and how you could have also done those acts due to the stress and fear and pain, it's much easier to forgive them. In other words, not to hold on to anything that creates a separation, but to love them, to forgive. And forgiveness dissolves the karma. But still the karma must be balanced. It is resolved, it must be balanced. Aaron is perhaps more articulate on these things than I am. He's very used to speaking about such things, so sometime you might take this up with him. How can you solidify your faith in God? God is not something outside of you. God is love. God is the power of love in the universe and within you, within everything. When you feel anger toward another, and you stop and bring yourself into your heart, bring the other into your heart, not trying to forgive, but finding deep compassion for that other person's situation, so that you begin to feel the light and love within you and that within them. That is God. God cannot be confined into this or that box. Faith in God, for me, equates to faith in the power of love. And each time you express love in response to something negative, you're deepening your faith in God, even if the one who was negative then further attacks you. I understand that at that point you would say, well, there is no God or I would have been safe. Perhaps your role here was simply to help others learn, and that you were willing to do that. Might I have said, there is no God, or I would not have died on the cross? How would that sound? How would that sit for you? We put ourselves out there, willing to be used by the divine energy that is everywhere, and especially right here in this human heart, asking, how can I best be of service? We can express a preference. I'd rather do it and still be safe and not find harm. If it be thy will. When I say thy will, if it be for the highest good. So before my crucifixion, I'm quoted as saying, thy will be done. Spare me from this, but if it be necessary, thy will be done. I did not mean that some God up there was going to say, you must do this, but rather, I release the fear. Whatever is for the highest good, I trust. And in experiencing that end to that human, that heavier body human life as Yeshua, I was able to express myself in so much bigger a way. I could not have done that if I had clung to the body saying, God, I need this to happen or I won't have faith. It takes a lot of love. Everything in your life comes as practice. Let me add something there. Aaron is here reminding me that I once said to him, he asked me a similar question. Do you think I enjoyed being crucified? Do you think I did not ask for any way out of that? But my higher intention was to do the work I came to do, to demonstrate to humans that the essence of them does not die, and to experience the life and power of that essence, the light that you are. Herein we find faith. You can find it in the little things. You don't have to be put to death in a tortured way to find it. Thank you. I know you have practiced Vipassana with Barbara and Aaron. I know no clearer path. This does not mean not to become upset, but one watches the upset, the tension arising, and sees it for what it is, step by step. Someone harms you in some way. Tension arises, it's unpleasant. There's anger that wants to lash out. Object upon object, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. How am I relating to it? This is something that my mother especially taught me as a young boy. We did not call it Vipassana, but it was the identical practice. To be present with what arises, with awareness, with an open heart, and see it unfold. And this is how I overcame anger and fear and the need for reactivity as a human. It is a precious practice. Go ahead.
This is Deja. I'm having some weird glitch where I can't copy and paste Pep's question to you, Barbara. So or to Yeshua, I should say.
And Pep, simply type it in the chat screen.
Well, he has, but I can't get it to you because of the settings we have on this meeting. So I'm just going to read it to you if that's okay. He asked, before you talked about transmuting the negativity, how can we do this? I often find myself between grasping for the light and pushing a bit away negativity in me, which creates some friction and tension in me, or relaxing and being open to negativity or lower emotions, which can often trap me there. How can we find harmony with this?
First, grounding yourself in the light that you are. When you're experiencing negativity, just take it and put it aside for a minute. Come back into yourself, into your heart. Where is light and love in this moment? If I am contracting and angry at myself, can I open my heart with compassion to myself? Can I truly hold this being that I am with compassion? Within that compassion is the light. It is that light, that spaciousness, right there with the contraction that transmutes the contraction, the anger. A lot of this is part of what Aaron has been teaching for years. So I would suggest you might consider joining one of these classes if you want to explore this further. For me, I phrase it, Aaron is much more technical about it and understands the nuances of how to speak about it. For me, we transmute with love and with light. Right there in the darkness is light. But perhaps because I experience it so completely, it's harder for me to teach you how to transmute the darkness other than to come back to the simple love it. Thank you all for joining me to celebrate this joyous evening of the awakening, the birth of a new light into the world. All of our light. You are the light. You are love. And you can become that more and more and more. You can find confidence, not faith, confidence in your own ability to hold that light through practice, through commitment. Meanwhile, just for tonight, let us simply celebrate light. Light shall prevail on earth. Light